Let's go down to the UK, where MPs there are debating amendments to the Employment Rights Bill with particular concerns around Clause 18, which critics fear could lead to a crackdown on free speech in pubs, if you can believe it. The amendment would force employers to take all reasonable steps to protect staff from harassment from third parties. Now, critics of the legislation, including people like Nigel Farage, well, they fear it'll be a Trojan horse to ban any controversial topics being discussed at the bar, like religion or transgender rights or anything else. Joining me now, News Corp's Europe correspondent, Sophie Elsworth. Well, Soph, I tell you what, not being able to speak your mind at the pub over a gin and tonic or a nice ale, I mean, I'm saying it's almost un-Australian, but it's certainly not British either. This is a shocker.
Well, it's a real concern, Peter. I mean, the British pub culture, as we all know, is a massive part of life over here in the UK. And to actually have to potentially go down the road of having pub police monitoring what people are saying inside these venues, potentially removing them if there is offence taken by staff, is quite remarkable. And there is concern. The British Pub Association has said this could have unintended consequences. So who is going to enforce this if this does get through? This could open a giant can of worms and be a nightmare for these venues, Peter, where people go just to relax and enjoy themselves. And now they're going to potentially have to really watch what they say if this bill becomes legislation.
Well, we were just together not so long ago ourselves in London, and if we'd been in a pub with some left-wing millennials behind the bar, well, we were at a pub, I have to say, they'd be pretty upset with some of the things we were talking about.
But Peter, these are places you should be able to go and speak freely among your friends. You should be able to enjoy yourself. Of course, not being offensive to other patrons, but just talking among friends and family and going on a night out. It's part of life. And to now have the Parliament debating this bill, the Conservative Party have pushed to try and have this clause in the Act struck out. So it's still yet to be determined, Peter, but there are many people nervous about this if it does become legislation.
And of course, we know what happens. So much of what Labor does in the UK comes to Australia. It's imported into Australia. It'll hit us as well. Hey, just quickly, we heard from Nigel Farage last night on Paul Murray's show. Rupert Lowe, one of his colleagues, has been suspended. Let's have a listen to what Nigel said is the reason for it.
I've been here before. You know, you build something up and somebody else thinks they can do a better job than you. So I think it's no secret he'd like to be leader. He thinks he's going to be the next Prime Minister. He even said to a group of us the other week, I will destroy anyone that gets in my way. Well, I'm sorry, but I'm in the way.
Well, until all of this, so if we know, reform was in the absolute box seat, what's happening and what impact is this with ordinary people?
So Nigel Farage, obviously the leader of Reform UK, they have 5 MPs over here in the UK, and Rupert Lowe, one of the MPs, has come out and said he's not quite sure if Nigel Farage is the right man to lead the party and lead the country if the party is successful at the next general election. Now, this really got under the skin of Nigel Farage, and consequently, there's been an entire fallout. There's now accusations and investigation against Rupert Lowe, an incredibly wealthy businessman who is not in this for money. He forgoes his salary, for heaven's sake, to do this job. He's now under investigation for claims he's treated people within Reform UK appallingly. And now Nigel Farage and him are having this incredibly public spat, Peter, where it's he said, she says type argument. They're doing columns in the daily papers. They're going on media. They're doing interviews. It's ugly. And Reform are paying the price for this, Peter, because just recently a poll came out, and a YouGov poll, and it showed 33% of Reform voters think the party would be better off if Nigel Farage wasn't the leader. So this is the problem for the party, Peter, that you and I know was the hottest thing in town in the UK. They've now got this very ugly spat playing out in front of everyone to see.
That's a big hit in the polls in a matter of weeks, so we'll stay across that. Thank you. Stay warm. It looks cold where you are there in Yorkshire.